We'll call this meeting to order. Start with our mission statement. Above all else, we are committed to the creation of a safe and understanding environment for all students and staff while providing a world-class education. Right now, we'll open our meeting with the invocation and pledge by Mr. Carswell.
Let us pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for today. Lord, we thank you for your grace and your mercy and your love and all that you do for us that we don't even know about, Lord. We pray for this district and ask that you bless the school board, bless our students and our staff. Protect us, Lord. Help us to make wise decisions and help us to do everything we can for the betterment of the students and for you, Lord. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Please join me in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Carswell, would you like to do the superintendent spotlight as well?
Yes, ma'am, if we could do that now. We have a couple of months ago, or it may have been back before Christmas even, we were challenged by this board to start doing things to market our district better. And I'm very happy and proud to say that Diana Swisher, who's out here somewhere, Tierra Arline, Angela Kopic, I think Todd may have had something to do. Several people got together and we've gone out and created videos for our career and tech ed classes to use on social media and any place else we can use to sell our schools. So this is just the first video tonight. This is Culinary Arts at Columbia. Next board meeting, we hope to bring to you health occupations at Fort White High School. So we're going to be showing you some of these videos. They last about a minute. So this is what will be the superintendent spotlight.
Hi, my name is Anthony L. Newton. I'm a culinary arts teacher here at Columbia High School. We have over 200 students currently in our program. In Columbia Culinary, we get the opportunity to work with many ingredients, learn different techniques, experience food from different cultures from around the world. When you take this class, you have the opportunity to get certified in food safety and food safety management and get exposed to some of the inner workings that go along with culinary. With these certifications, you have the ability to walk into different restaurants, not just restaurants, but work in the different health departments, and present yourself as someone who's able to certify, look at food, make sure people are served correctly. You have the opportunity to learn management skills beyond just cooking. There's so many other roles inside the kitchen, inside the world of culinary, beyond cooking. And in this program, everybody is somebody. There is an opportunity for anybody. But one thing that we have in common that does not discriminate, that does not matter gender, doesn't matter race, is the kitchen. We all need food to survive. We all need certain skills in the kitchen to be effective. So if you want to be a part of that, if you want to learn those type of things, come on over to Columbia Culinary. We'd be happy to make you a part of our team.
So, Madam Chair, that's a hashtag choose CCS. I'm excited about it. I love the line in there, and I'm paraphrasing that. It says food does not discriminate. I'm a big fan of food. So I'm glad that it does not discriminate. So anyway, that's our superintendent spotlight. I look forward to seeing more of these videos. Thank Diana and her team. They did an awesome job putting this together.
That was great. I like the line, everybody is somebody. I wrote that down. That's great. Really good. Any other comments from board members? Thank you, Ms. Swisher. That's wonderful. That was very nice. Very nice. Okay, welcome everybody to our meeting tonight. At this time, I would like to invite any member of the audience that would like to comment on any of our action items. We actually have 3. There's 4 on the agenda, but one is going to be removed tonight. It's the discussion about the Guardian program. That's not an action item at this time, so we only have 3 action items. So is there any member of the audience who would like to comment on an action item at this time? 3 minutes. If you'd state your name, and you have 3 minutes to speak to address the board.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Jonell Bowden, and I want to just speak briefly to item B, discussion of approval of strategy for redistricting of board member. I think that any of us who've been in politics for a long time know that as much as we dislike it, politics plays a part in redistricting. And I come before you tonight just asking that as you go through your strategy in this process, be as transparent as possible. That, matter of fact, be absolutely transparent. And that I think that during the process that I've been involved with a lot of them. What we don't want to do, in my view, is pit an incumbent against an incumbent for the next election. I have not talked to Ms. Smith, so I'm not saying it on her behalf, but just think how unfair it would be if for some kind of way she end up in a district with a person that got to run again in 2024 when she just got reelected by not having opposition. So I think you need to put some thoughts in this, and I would encourage you, if you're going to use outside consultant, to use the same one the county use, and use the same one that the city is planning to use. It just make more sense. They got the data, they got the information, and they can follow your instructions, but I stand before you asking for transparency. And I know it's not a law that says you can't have retrogression in representation, but it's important to know that we end up the same district voting because of a lawsuit. Now, the numbers have changed. District 1 is no longer as minority packed as it was when it first started. People move out, they're moving, so that's an issue. But I think that it should be, every effort should be made that people in these districts are able to elect the person of their choice, ever how that plays out. And I don't think the line should be drawn in a way to just favor some and disfavor others. If you're gonna divide it up by population, then it should be equal to population as possible. Not by party, not by race, but by representation. So transparency, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowden.
Thank you, Mr. Bowden.
Is there anyone else? Okay. We are moving on to item number 4, which is to close and adopt the agenda. We do have, I think I've already mentioned, board members, that we are removing item C off the action items. There is an addendum. And so there will for action items, there will be an additional action item, which is 6. Where is it? DD. So that will be added to action item, an amendment. Anything else or any other corrections or additions, Mr. Superintendent?
No, ma'am, I would just point out that we do have a presentation for the district Sunshine State Scholar representative.
Yes, we do have an additional presentation, which is on the addendum as well.
One addition to the consent agenda.
Okay. And one addition to the consent agenda. Okay, with all those changes, do I have a motion to close and adopt the agenda?
Madam Chair, I move that we close and adopt the agenda with the said changes.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
The board financial report, is that also a presentation?
Yes, it's a presentation. We have 3 presentations: the board financial report, the status of the district lease copy machines, and recognition of our district Sunshine State Scholars.
Might we do that one first?
Well, I'm gonna,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
We just have 3 of them.
So-
We'll have Mr. Cruz first. So with those, any other discussion? All in favor of closing and adopting the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? The agenda is approved. We're going to move on to our presentation, and our first presentation is going to be the recognition of the District Sunshine State Scholar Representative for 2023.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, parents, students, and other honored guests. As a representative of the Office of Instructional Services, I'm proud to be here tonight to recognize the 2023 Sunshine State Scholar for the Columbia County School District. The State Sunshine State Scholars Program originally began in 1997 to recognize students, teachers, and schools that achieved excellence in mathematics and science. Each year, Florida school districts select their top 11th grade students in science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM, based on established criteria. These scholars, along with their parents, are scheduled to convene this spring and April to receive recognition for their achievements from state education officials. At the event, the scholars will also have opportunities to meet with representatives from Florida's colleges and universities to learn about STEM opportunities and related programs of study and internships in the state. Columbia County Sunshine State Scholar was selected among finalists submitted by each high school. The state's minimum requirements for selection are as follows. The student must be a junior with an interest in attending college in Florida. The student has expressed and/or demonstrated an interest in STEM related studies, and the student has a weighted grade point average of 3.9 or higher. The student should also be on track to qualify for the Florida Academic Scholars Award for Florida Bright Future Scholarship Program, and the student should have documentation to support a minimum of 25 hours of approved community service to this point. Our chosen Sunshine State Scholar more than met the minimum criteria, possessing a perfect 4.0 GPA while taking AP and honors courses, and he is currently in the running for valedictorian of his graduating class of 2024. In addition to his success in the classroom, our scholar has been active in STEM activities with the first robotics competition since its inception in Columbia County, including helping to establish programs at 3 elementary schools along with his family. He has also been very successful in science fair competitions for many years at the local, regional, and state levels, and his current plans for college are to study aerospace engineering. We are confident this student will be an exemplary representative of the district at this year's State Scholar event in April. Without further delay, we would like to recognize Brody Cruz of Fort White High School as the Sunshine State Scholar for Columbia County School District for 2023. We wish him the very best in his continued studies at Fort White High and beyond.
Congratulations, Brody. I have, in addition to all that he does academically, he's also our drum major. Did I say that correctly? For the Fort White High School Marching Band. And he's also very active in extracurricular. He always helps with the homecoming parade floats and things. And he's in one of my son's classes. And so I'm very proud of you. And there's no one more deserving. And you have great parents who I know are very active and very helpful. So congratulations, Brody. I'm very proud of you. You represent Fort White very well. Any other members?
Just awesome job.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Brody, and I know that your parents are very proud of you. We are proud of you, and we know that you're going to do great things. Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations. It's well in order.
All right, we're moving on to our board financial report for January 2023. Ms. Laxton.
Good evening, everyone. As we predicted, our unassigned did go under the 6% like we expected with the raises that we approved. So I definitely am continuing to follow that and monitor it closely. This does include, of course, the budget amendments that were submitted earlier that should be also in your packet. So as far as tax collections, we are up 4% over prior year at this time. So we are continuing to collect at a faster rate. As far as the half-cent sales tax, we have not collected any funds yet. Department of Revenue suggests or recommends that we'll probably get our first payment in March, so next month. So hopefully this time next month, I'll be able to give you an idea of what we may have collected so far. Electricity right now is continuing to be favorable by 2% or 32,000. So just barely making the cut. And then again, fuel diesel continues to be fairly favorable, 22% or 216,000. Again, we budgeted $5.75. Our most recent diesel cost was $3.54 per gallon. So continuing to do well with that. I know that we do have some concerns in some other areas, so we may have to adjust the budget, and it may have to come, from diesel with the anticipation that we're not certain, where it's going to go for summer months. I know that it usually increases. So, that'll be a decision we can make together.
So where's the need for the diesel money? I mean, you said we had other needs.
You're fixed to hear about it in the next presentation.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair, if I might, I just want to remind this board, we have an executive session on March 30th to discuss bargaining under the salaries, under staffing, so everything you want to add, we will get deep into the weeds on this to find the money. We're below 6%. We're going to do everything we can to get us above 6% to start the July 1st year, to be fiscally above 6% before the year starts. The challenges that we face are what we've always said the last 6 months, is that the enrollment's declining. we've got to move some stuff around. The big hit is what you're going to see here in the next presentation. You know, we've got some issues there, and that's where this could come in to help us if you decide to go that route. But March 30th, I'm just doing this in a way of reminding you, the executive session, which is under the finances for bargaining, staffing, salaries, and things like that, will be March 30th.
Any other questions?
Any other-
I guess we'll wait and see what's next, right?
Yep.
What is to come?
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Blackson. Our next presentation is the status of our district leased copy machines. Mr. Hatcher, Ms. Logan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe you all have a handout in front of you that has a cover page that looks like this, if you'd like to reference that. Give you all just a moment to find that. So I just want to go over just a few things, about history here, and the parties that are involved in this discussion this evening that you will have when this comes to an action item. And of course, you are absolutely welcome any comment or question that you have of me during this presentation phase. But right now there are 4 parties that will be involved in this decision tonight that would be affected. One first party is Marcotech. Marcotech is a local company owned by Mr. Norris. He supplied copiers for many years to Columbia County School Board through lease agreements, and that goes back at least to 2006. That's as far back as I could go in my records. So it goes back quite a number of years. At present, the copiers that will be at question tonight are financed by Leaf Financial. That is a third-party company that financed these copiers that will be in question tonight. The third party is Saxon. Saxon is a company from Jacksonville, the current authorized dealer for Xerox copiers in our area. And then finally, there's Xerox itself, who would be the supplier and lessor of the copy machines through Saxon, should the board decide to go that direction. The next page, page 4, is a timeline that I'd like to just go through very briefly here. Back June of 2016, we entered into a 5-year agreement with Marcotech. And during that particular agreement, COVID hit. And you know the significance, I don't have to tell you the significance of COVID on our school district and on supply chain. During that particular time, during the time that we were actually still out during the summertime after we went out for COVID after March 13th, 2020, we received a letter from Xerox that announced that Saxon Business Systems, a Xerox company, would be our new source for Xerox solutions. And I believe that that particular document, as well as the email that came from Pathways Academy, they got actually the first notification of this, is in the appendix. On May 5th of 2021, that if you correct that next date, it shouldn't be June 7th. I went back and it should be May 25th of 2021. We entered into an agreement for the leasing of 74 copiers with Saxon. But unfortunately, because of those supply chain issues caused by COVID, by October 14th, we had only gotten 11 of those copiers. So on the 12th of October, Marcotech approached purchasing office, indicating that they can deliver the remaining 63 copiers ASAP. Presented the agreement to the board on the 26th of October, entered into the agreement with Marcotech and Leaf for the remaining copiers. And from October of 21 to August of 22, those supply chain issues continued. Those supply chain issues continued with not only Saxon, but with Marcotech. We had difficulty getting toner, we had difficulty getting drums, we had difficulty getting fusers, all of the things that are typical maintenance issues for copiers. We had problems getting those. So I met with both companies on August the 19th of 22, indicating, what their plans were going forward, about how we were going to resolve these supply chain issues. Meeting with both of them, there was a 45-day timeline, which ended October 3rd of 22. And based on performance, we recommended at that particular time that the board approve the termination of the contract with Marcotech and Leaf. That particular document is also in your appendix. After that time, we got into some legal issues, and I'm gonna turn it over to Ms. Logan to talk to you about those issues and what our options are going forward.
Good evening, board members. So I want to take a moment to walk you through the contracts and kind of how we got here from a legal perspective. At the time that this, and I'll call it a package of copiers, was presented to the board for your consideration, there were two separate documents in effect. There was a one-page executive summary and quote from Marcotech itself, along with a master lease from Leaf Financial. And the easiest way I can describe this to you is to use the analogy of purchasing a car. And so when we entered into an arrangement to lease these copiers, Marcotech was the supplier, no different than if you went to Toyota or Honda for a car. But it was going to be financed by Leaf Capital. And the idea being Leaf would pay Marcotech in full, and that also included a service provision for the copiers to be serviced and maintained. And the school district would pay on a monthly basis to Leaf, a pure and simple lease. And so again, making the car analogy, the idea being if your car is a lemon or doesn't work or has maintenance issues, you don't stop paying your lease payments. You go back to the supplier, the manufacturer, and try to seek a remedy there. And so in this instance, after advising Marcotech of the deficiencies in the contract and the problem that we were experiencing, we arranged to terminate our agreement with Marcotech, and Leaf responded and said, not so fast. We're the finance company, we get paid regardless. And so going back to those contracts, I think it's important for the board to note kind of the caveats between the two and what we thought we were getting or what we were expecting. And that is Marcotech, as the supplier, again, issued a one-page executive summary, but of significance within that agreement is a 100% satisfaction guarantee, and other arrangements as to what would be provided as far as supplies, toner, things like that. The Leaf contract, the master lease, does not make any of those same provisions. But again, I think the idea being if you were financing anything at the cost of these copiers, that finance company is going to make sure that they get paid regardless of the quality of the product. And they're going to, again, ask you to look to the supplier or the manufacturer in the event there's a problem. So that's exactly what's happened here. Leaf has suggested, we did everything you asked us to do, which is finance these copiers. And so there's no remedy there. But essentially, Leaf wants to, and under the agreement, deserves to be paid out. The provisions for that, and you'll see on your agenda, there are 4 options for your consideration. But the first being, so we made back when the board terminated the agreement, the first option being that we rescind that termination and continue on with both Marcotech and Leaf as if nothing had happened. And the financial impact of that would obviously be nothing more than what the board had previously agreed to pay by executing those agreements. And I don't have my agenda in front of me, but essentially there's 2 other options that were B and C. One, I believe, is for we would execute a new contract with Saxon for replacement of the 63 copiers that Marcotech previously provided. And one of the options, thank you, The B, what you were looking at, includes a buyout. And so in essence, the money that we owe Leaf would be financed into the new agreement with Saxon, and Saxon would pay that on our behalf with us paying them back in monthly installments. The third option, which you'll see is item C, is similarly for a replacement of the Marcotech copiers by Saxon. This does not include a buyout. And so the idea being that the school board would still be responsible for that buyout. This is simply an arrangement to, in essence, buy out the Leaf. We would have to buy out the Leaf agreement, but it would put in place a new contract with Saxon for the replacement. The final option, which is on your addendum, came about as a result of a recent discussion with Leaf, where they advised that upon termination of the agreement, the school board is responsible for returning the copiers to a location of their choosing. And at this time, they don't yet have that location. So shipping costs are kind of difficult to calculate when you don't know where they're going. But the idea being, rather than spending money sending these copiers back to Leaf, the school board would retain these copiers, declare them surplus, and sell them for whatever profit the school board can receive from it. And so again, with the exception of the first option that's been provided, which is to maintain what we currently have, all three options are simply for a buyout in some form or fashion. And when I say that, meaning replacement of those 63 copiers by Saxon, with the options varying between whether Saxon picks up that buyout or does not, or whether that buyout includes us keeping the copiers or us returning the copiers. So those are the options for your consideration tonight. Are there any questions?
What does staff recommend?
Mr. Hudson, I would recommend item C. It is it's a little bit more expensive than one of the other ones, which would be to return the copiers. However, it's the only one that allows us the opportunity to surplus the copiers and actually get something out of them.
Isn't that D?
I'm sorry?
That's D, isn't it?
That should, my apologies, that's D. That's this one on your addendum.
So that's D is what you recommend?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. That would be what I would recommend.
Oh, okay.
Because it gives us the opportunity to actually recoup some of our losses.
So what would be the budget impact? That's, I guess, get you a recommendation, then we want to know how much it's going to impact the budget, and if it's an impact, where's that money coming from?
The buyout cost for that particular one would be $322,025.78. But then the other part of that is we would not have the cost to ship, which is right now is only an estimated cost of $6,500.
Is this part of the packet where you showing?
Yes,
the-
it's,
the
and
cost
the part
comparison
of
here?
pages 6, 7, and 8
8, okay.
give you a kind of a breakdown of what the financial impact is for each one of those. It's in the packet in front of you, and it was included with what I emailed this morning.
On page 8.
But the overall, the overall impact on the budget, if I'm reading item 6D, it says that approving this action will increase the copy machine budget by approximately $11,521.41 annually. Is that the estimated increase overall to the budget annually? Am I reading that correct?
Annual cost, yes, ma'am. The one-time buyout is $322.
Okay.
So the 322, is that something that was budgeted?
No, sir, it was not
So
budgeted.
that would,
Is that where the diesel money's coming?
that'd be a front-end unbudgeted expenditure.
Yes, sir, it would.
Wow.
Madam Chair, if I could, that's where Ms. Laxton was
Yeah.
alluding to in the previous, the $250,000 that we're going to save this year on electricity and diesel fuel could go toward that if the board chose to do that. Now, I'm not saying it will, but that will not have a long-term effect because we're going to continue to budget fuel costs at a higher rate the next year as well. But that's, I'm just trying to tie it all together. That's what she was alluding to earlier.
Do we have,
Madam-
I'm sorry,
okay, go ahead.
do we have any, I think you and I discussed this earlier, and I don't know that you have the answer now, but I'm gonna ask it just so that I've asked it. Do we have any, experience or knowledge of what, the surplus, what we might gain? What that might be, what that amount could be if we surplus the 63?
No, ma'am, I don't have any idea until you put it out there. My suggestion, if we go that route, would be to put a reserve on each one of the copiers, sell them individually, and only take a minimum, open bid, just to throw a number out there, say $1,000, and then the bids would go up from there. We just don't really know until we put it out there what we might get.
Have no idea of what the interest would be
No, sir.
as it stands right now.
No, sir.
Given that Marketech promised 100% satisfaction, are there any legal remedies that we should consider as a board?
I think there can be, you know, as I mentioned, we're really kind of at a crossroads between the two parties, with Leaf claiming, and probably rightfully so, that they have no responsibility. Again, they financed what we asked them to, with our understanding that there was a 100% satisfaction guarantee. So in that respect, I think Leaf is kind of out of the picture, or, you know, off limits for liability or for a potential claim. I do think there is the potential for a claim against Markotech if the board was so inclined, based on the 100% satisfaction guarantee, based on both implied and expressed warranties within that executive summary. But I will say, just as with any litigation, I think before you kind of go full throttle and ramp that up, my suggestion would be a demand letter, just kind of outlining the circumstances and what it is that the board is seeking to recoup before there is full-fledged litigation.
And would we need to rescind the previous vote in order to pursue those legal remedies, or just?
No, ma'am. Again, the effect of that was to terminate the agreement. That, again, would stand, that termination. And this is obviously just an additional action as it relates to Leaf and what the desired goal is with regard to the copiers and the ability to kind of move on from that. But no, you would not have to rescind your prior action.
Any other questions?
If we did nothing, then that means that the teachers in the schools would not have working copiers. And this has been the issue all along. So, so we are pushed in the corner to make a buyout, even though they did not uphold their part of the contract. So the most profitable way, or the most effective way for our teachers to get, and staff to get copiers that are working, we would have to buy out in some manner.
Yes, option one, as I mentioned, is kind of the status quo, what we have going on right now at the schools. In fairness, I think not all of the copiers are either not working or having, you know, issues such as smudging or marks or things like that. I think there are some that are functional without any issues. But I do, and certainly Mr. Hatcher can speak to this, I think there's been quite a few complaints and requests for service and problems with the copiers. And obviously, I think the concern is we're about 14, 15 months in on a 5-month lease or 5-year lease. So what does this look like at 48 months, 49 months? I don't know.
So if you have copiers that are working, and some of them are, some of it is because of supply, not providing toner, drums and things of this nature, so that if this is the case, then chances are, if we auction them off, then we should be able to get something out of the copiers.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
what you're
Yes, ma'am.
thinking.
That's correct. And I think what we've run into is these copiers, we knew when we went into this, you know, we needed copiers in place. These copiers are a couple of generations old, and I think what is happening now is there's a problem supplying those particular products, the toner, the fusers, the drums, because Xerox just simply is not making them anymore.
Well, if that's the case, will we be able to auction them off? Would anyone want to?
That's a good question.
Okay.
So in 16 months, they've become obsolete?
I'm
That
sorry,
was-
repeat the question.
So in the 16 months we've been under contract, they've become obsolete?
Yes, ma'am.
Of the 63 Xerox machines, I know you had shared with me that some are not working completely, and then others, there are issues with the toner. Can you clarify that somewhat on the, I know you'd shared with me the listing of how many. How many have been verified that absolutely do not work?
There hasn't been a number. It was a very quick turnaround. But I can tell you that there are some schools that have one running right now out of 4. There are some schools that have indicated to me that, if we can get some more reliable copiers in place, that they're waiting for something better. But as far, I'm sorry, I did not have, I was not able to get a number on that. Just some feedback from the schools as we were able to get it starting yesterday.
Mr. If the issue is supply, if we move forward with this buyout and we had these copiers replaced with other how quickly can they be replaced by new copiers?
My understanding is, and our hope is, that we can have most, if not all, the copiers in place by the end of March. You know, we do have representatives from both Marcotech and Saxon here today. If that might be a question during the action items or now, for one of those representatives, if you'd like to ask them that. One of the things that I've tried to negotiate into, if we do move forward going with Saxon, is having supplies of toner, fuser, and drums on hand in our warehouse. That gives us less than a 24-hour. A lot of times it'll be same day to our schools if they have a toner problem, if they have a fuser problem, or they have a drum problem. I've been guaranteed that we could have a supply of those in our warehouse, and then the ordering of the surplus for those supplies would come straight from the warehouse. It wouldn't have to be at individual schools.
And these would be more current,
These would be brand new
brand new,
copies.
these would be brand new copies.
Yes, ma'am.
So is Mr. Norris gonna be the maintenance person on those?
Unfortunately, no, sir.
He's gonna be out?
Yes, sir.
Well, Mr. Norris is here. I mean, would he like would you like to speak? Yeah. It's okay with me, Madam Chairman.
That's fine.
See what he said. He's been around a long time.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I appreciate it, guys. You know, Marcotech has been here for a lot longer than 2006, but we've done a lot of work with the district, and we've been very proud of that work. A little over 2 years ago, our role with Xerox changed. We were the agent in the area. They were moving things to make things more dealer-centric, which is totally separate from what we've ever done before. And so we've gone through a lot of changes in the last 2 years, had to learn a lot of things, a lot of hard ways, especially right in the middle of COVID. So it's been a difficult time. When we learned that Xerox was unable because of COVID, still, listen, I've been with Xerox for a long time, still love Xerox, and would still think Xerox is the best. So I'm not here to say anything negative about Xerox at all. And, but what I would say is, you know, when we approached Mr. Hatcher's office, Mr. Hatcher, about the fact that we understood that they were unable to get copiers in here quickly, I said, listen, we have a way of doing it, but they're going to be used. We're going to get used equipment. It's going to be older equipment. We will make it work. We will do everything within our power to make it work.
but we can get it in here, we can get it in over the next couple of months, and we can get it working. For the last 20 some odd years, I have always used the term 100% satisfaction guarantee. For the first 18 of that, it was Xerox's 100% satisfaction guarantee. And what that meant was, if the machine doesn't work, we're going to replace it with another machine of like value and like features at no cost to you. We're going to move those around. That's what it's always meant. And so for the last 20 some odd years, we have always told you you had a total satisfaction guarantee on the equipment we put in. When I switched to being a dealer, I went right on with the same thing. So if a machine went bad and we couldn't get it repaired quick enough, or we didn't have the parts to repair that one machine because we couldn't get them, we replaced it with a different machine. And that's what we've always done. Now, saying right here in open forum, my mistake I made was I didn't define what that meant in the executive summary. I've just put 100% satisfaction guarantee, just like I had for the last 20 years. But that was the definition of it, the same as it's always been. And there's probably documentation somewhere in the files that purchasing has, where somewhere in the last 20 years, that definition's been given in writing. But here again, that was on me. So here we sit in a situation where trying to do the best for the county, you all know there's not a person on this board that doesn't know me and doesn't know how much I love this county and love the school board. And I have tried to do everything I possibly could to help this school district for years at every level, personal, business, and everything I can. But we've learned some lessons here. And we put this equipment in and we expected it to work and we thought it would work, and and a lot of it is working. You asked how many is not working. I'm going to say right now, out of the 63, there are probably, realistically, there's probably about 8 machines that have real service issues. Real service issues, the parts that are broken that need to be fixed, that we're working on. Constantly working every day to fix machines. There are machines that need a fuser. The fuser just went out today or went out yesterday. We're trying to get them another fuser, or it may need a drum. It has some lines and the drum needs to be changed. Or we got an email today, this afternoon, that toner's out and we need to run toner over there. These are normal things that happen every single day. They're going to happen if you're with Saxon or if you're with Canon or who you're ever with. You're going to have toners go out, fusers are going to go out, drums are going to go out. This is a normal part of doing business. What I can tell you, and like I said, those of you that know me know that I'm going to tell you the truth no matter how bad it makes me look. The truth of the matter is when, gosh, I lost my train of thought. I would lose it right there. When you put machines out there and we totally lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. All I'm trying to say is the machines were put in place in good faith. As machines have broken, Mr. Hatcher will tell you, we've moved and we've replaced them with other machines. We have gone to every major school and replaced them with bigger, faster machines at no cost to you. You started out with 7855s across the board. You have 7970s. We went up to 70 pages a minute in most all your major schools to try to match giving you a heavier workload, because at the time we were only able to get 55-page-a-minute machines during COVID. We've upgraded them all to 70-page-a-minute machines. There are probably, at the moment, 13 of those in the district right now that we didn't bill you a dime for. We upgraded them as part of our total satisfaction guarantee to try to keep things moving. So we work very hard every day. And I will tell you this, to be honest, one of the things here's what I was going to say a minute ago. Perception is reality with people. Once someone thinks they have a lemon, they have a lemon, no matter if it's really bad or not. Most Xerox people will tell you that a machine can be rebuilt once you have the frame. By the time you change the xerographic module, the fuser, the drums, the customer replaceable part components, that machine is brand new practically, except for the electronics. So these machines are built to be reused and for the parts to be changed and for them to be operational and stay up and running. And for the most part, we've done a pretty good job of that. During COVID, we kept you guys up and running. The schools were up and running. Now, were they up the way they wanted to be? No. Did they have problems? Yes. Did the kids get the work done because we were able to get the work out? Yes. Did we buy toner from anywhere and everywhere we could get it? And did that toner cause lines on the paper because it was not Xerox correct toner? Yes. But it generated the paper that the schools needed to have for the kids to do their work. And that was our concern. And to be honest with you, that toner damaged the machines, damaged the drums some, cost us a fortune having to redo all those drums because we were putting the wrong toner in there, but it was the only way to keep you guys active and operational, which was my concern. The kids needed the work. That's the whole reason those copies are there. They're a tool to help them meet the needs of the kids. That's all they're there for. And if they're not running, they're sitting there unplugged, that's not meeting the needs of the kids. So we did whatever we could to get toner and parts from anywhere we could get it from to keep them going, and we did that. And I'm proud to say that we kept most of them up all through COVID. And now we're making the adjustments to correct the damages that we created by doing that, and it's working. Most of the problems that you will have now, if you, and Mr. Hastert can attest to this, I'm sure, most of the complaints now are us catching up with toner and drums and fusers. It's not machines being broken that can't be fixed. It's supply issues that we're working very diligently to get caught up on. I will also say, in trying to keep this going and getting things corrected as fast as we can, to be honest with you, we've actually damaged a core part of the rest of our business to our other customers because we put so much work into trying to keep the schools operational the way we should. And that's very important to me. Whatever your decision is tonight, I respect it and I understand. The only thing I would like to ask you to keep in mind, we are a small local business. My wife and I have been here forever. You know us both. We don't have $300,000, so I don't know how that would help you. What we can say is that we will always continue to do the best interest of the school board, whatever that is. And if it's stepping aside and you bringing Saxon in, we respect that. Saxon is a very good company. They'll take very good care of you. And during the time when they had supply chain issues, we went around and we tried to keep their machines going too. Because in the agreement, in the beginning of the agreement, their 11 machines were the really big dog machines, the 70-page a minute machines that were in the schools. Those were the machines that were supposed to be keeping everything going. Ours were the 55-page a minute machines that were supposed to go in the lower volume areas. When their machines, when they didn't have toner for their machines, which was not their fault, they couldn't get it from China. When they didn't have the toner, our machines kept the entire district going. Their machines were down for months and months and months at that point. And that's totally understandable. That's not a criticism. When their machines went down because they needed waste toner containers, we had waste toner containers and we got them back up and running. And the schools will tell you, call Eastside, call several of the others, they will tell you that we got the Saxon machines up and running for them and would even go to other schools if we knew CHS had extra supplies for the Saxon machines and 5 Points didn't. We'd go get it from CHS and we'd take it to 5 Points and back and forth to try to make sure that those Saxon machines were running, because quite honestly, we were trying to pick up the volume that they should have been running. So in another nutshell, all the way down on this, because their machines were down so long during COVID, it did impact our machines also. So our machines have been run ragged, pretty bad. They're in good shape, and if you choose to sell them, you will be able to recoup some of that money. I don't know exactly how much, but you will. But I guess we'd just wrap it up by saying, we respect whatever decision you make. We're here for the board. We're here for the kids, and that's what we want to do. Any questions I can answer or anything?
Well, you said you got 55 out of 63 are operational. Is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
What will it take to get those other 8 running?
Time.
How much time?
Well, here's the honest answer to that.
I know you'll be on.
You're right. Here's the honest answer to that. Because of perception is reality, each school, every time a machine has any problem at all, they instantly go back, that's a piece of junk again, that dumb thing won't leave me alone. So the problem is we're inundated all day long by calls and complaints that they need this done or that done, or this machine's not doing this or that machine's not doing that. We can't get caught up. They're killing us, to be honest. I mean, it's tough. I have gained over 100 pounds in the last year from stress. So it's been tough, but we are doing everything we can night and day. I'm working 7 days a week to get supplies put together and things that we need in the warehouse to get started on Monday morning.
Are you being able to get supplies now? Is the
We
supply
are,
chain better?
we are, yes. Yes, sir. Now, I'm not pushing to say, keep everything status quo. That's not what I'm trying to say. I leave that up to you guys and what you think is the best decision for the district and for the kids. And like I said, Saxon will do a great job. But my thing is, I just want to be realistic that we put in used equipment and we knew we were doing that in the very beginning. I didn't sell you a bill of goods and give you bad equipment and now we haven't kept up the terms of our agreement. That's not true at all. And the 100% satisfaction guarantee, I give you that I should have defined exactly what that meant. But even Mr. Hatcher knows from previous years, that was talking about switching equipment, whatever was needed. And every school will tell you there's not one school that I haven't switched equipment at. Well, I take that back. Pathways, we haven't had to. But every school, we have switched equipment trying to keep that 100% satisfaction guarantee as correct as possible. So I'm doing everything I can within my power.
So if the board chose to stay with you going forward, I mean, what would you tell us that you could do? What do you think your performance would be like going forward?
That's a good question. I can tell you that we will continue to fight as hard as we are now to get caught up and to get things moving as fast as we can. I would have to ask the schools to please be a little bit more patient with us and understand that we're there to help them. We're not there to hurt them. And I think that that's what they feel at this time. But we want to help them and we want things to go correctly and we want to get things done. So we would continue doing what we're doing now, and that is to fight as hard as we possibly can to get things caught up.
So like in spring break, when schools are out, I mean, you're in there working, right? I mean,
That's
you're
right.
saying you're working 7 days a week.
That's right.
Is it just more are you overwhelmed? I mean, is it more than you can do?
I will admit that it has been overwhelming, yes. It has, because of the fact that if everything was status quo and everybody didn't see every little problem as a disaster problem, I think we would have less calls. We could focus on what we needed to get done. We could get things done quicker and things would be better, yes. We have certain schools that, they are a little bit over demanding and don't have any understanding. We'll have schools that, because they feel like we can't get them toner fast enough, we get calls every day where we're told our machine's down, we have no toner, we can't print anything at all. And we get there and they've got 70% black toner in the machine and it's running. Now, we've stopped everything to race across town to get there to find out that they were embellishing a little bit because they were wanting to get it there as fast as they could. And I understand. I do understand why they would do that. In years past with the agent channel, and I'm sure with Saxon, they would be able to fill the warehouse full of supplies. They can do that. That's coming from Xerox. They own it. They can put as much in there as they're willing to put in there. Like I said, we're a small mom and pop company here in Lake City, and I can't afford to go out and buy $1 million worth of toner and fill in the warehouse. So we're having to buy it as we go. And we have certain schools that are blowing through it like water at the moment, and we're trying to keep up. So.
Mr. Norris, what assurance can you give us about the toner moving forward? I was just looking at some of the notes that our from Mr. Hatcher earlier. For instance, West Side says no toner for all three. One printer is not printed for months. Richardson says they're down not due to not having toner on hand. Those are just two examples. What assurance could you give us moving forward if the board went with option number one, that the toner issue would be addressed?
I can tell you that I am inside West Side. My kids go to West Side. My godchildren go to West Side. And I'm at West Side every single day. And I check the machines every single day. And so every time they need toner, I take them toner. So I've already been in there this afternoon, picking up the kids from aftercare, and we'll be back there first thing in the morning with toner for them. Richardson, toner was delivered to Richardson today. They have a lot of machines within the school, and different personnel call for each machine. And so we sometimes get told that they're out and find there's toner all over the campus, and they're unwilling to share with one another. So sometimes we find 3 in one department and 0 in another department. And so it's one of those situations where we're trying as a small company to go in and carefully assess that and move those around so that everybody has what they need without taking it away from somewhere else, if that makes sense.
One question. Mr. Norris, when we were initially presented with this information, it was said that some of the copiers are outdated. They are not, they're older and you can't get the parts or whatever is needed for.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, no.
I think what Mr. Hatcher was trying to say, because the parts are available, you can buy the parts for the equipment. The machines are older. That was from the very beginning. They were used, they were older equipment. It was what we could get during COVID. The parts are available, the supplies are available. Xerox is very smart in the way that they do things. They will make toner that toner will work in 5 or 6 different families of machines. And a family of a machine is maybe, like, for instance, with this, it's a 7800 series. They have 35 page a minute, 45, 55, all the way up to the 70 page a minute machines. All of those take the same toner. Well, the family before that took the same toner. The family after that takes the same toner. So there are ways of getting hold of those parts and those toners. And for the most part, that's readily accessible today.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Norris.
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Let me just say this, regardless of how this board goes, I want you to know I really appreciate what you've done for us and continue to do for us. You've done a lot beyond this, just this right here we're talking about, so.
Thank you, and that means a lot. Thank you.
Okay. I think that concludes. Is there anything else from either one of you, Mr. Hatcher? Okay.
The recommendation by Mr. Hatcher was
D.
D.
So, but A, we said would cost us nothing. It wouldn't, if we use the first option here to stay put, we wouldn't have any expenses to deal with.
There would not be any additional expenses beyond what's already been budgeted.
Okay. So if we went further with this or rescinded what previous action we've taken, and we go further with this and, give Mr. Norris a chance to straighten this out. I know he's worked hard at it, but I know things are, supply chains are a lot better than they were, say, 6 months ago or a year ago.
What
That's
was my
a statement, not a question.
Okay. I think you would have quite a few principals and teachers who might disagree with that assessment and would not be very happy with us going in that direction. I'll just put it that way. Just based on the fact that I get communications every day, multiple on some days. And I have one particular in mind, that front office person has called me in tears before, because this is an ongoing thing. What I want best, and I'll be honest with you too, I want exactly what Mr. Norris wants, and that's for our people and our kids to have reliable machines that they can count on.
So when you had that call, I mean, how did Mr. Norris, I know you contacted Mr. Norris, and how did that go?
At what particular time?
What, you said you had a principal call you crying in tears about the problems.
I did not share that with Mr. Norris. I sent him a text saying that there was a particular school that needed some attention.
And was it taken care of?
It was taken care of, for the time being, yes.
Okay. Well, it's tough, more ways than one.
Yes, sir, I agree.
A lot of money, that's tough enough. We're
Yes.
gonna spend that diesel money that we have, that surplus of diesel money, we'll spend it 40 ways by sundown, as the old saying goes. You know,
Yes,
you
sir.
can't spend it so many ways.
Any other board members? Okay, let's move on to our action items.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hatcher. Our first action item is to approve our personnel items. We have personnel items on the agenda and the addendum. Mr. Carswell, are they all in order?
Yes, ma'am, they are all in order.
All right.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the personnel items that are on the agenda as well as on the addendum.
I second it.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion about the personnel items? With no discussion, all in favor of approving the personnel items, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Personnel items are approved. We're now moving on to action item B, which is to discuss and approve a strategy for redistricting of board members.
And if I could, I'm going to go to the podium
Sure.
and address you all.
Thank you.
All right, so I was recently approached by County Attorney Joel Foreman regarding the school board's interest in redistricting. By statute, this can only occur in an odd numbered year. So you might recall that this came before the board in 2021, but due to COVID, census data was late getting out. The county is required by their charter to redistrict by committee, which the school board is not. So by the time all of that went through, they were under a very tight timeline. And the county did redistrict, but this board chose not to, in favor of retaining the same districts that it had previously had. My understanding is that the county, because it did just redistrict and incurred the expense associated with that, is not so much interested in doing it on their own or taking the lead, but rather if the school board was so inclined, the county would like to certainly consider what the school board proposes and potentially adopt that. So the question for the board is whether there is interest in redistricting, and obviously we can talk about how we go about that. I will tell you, again, with the school board taking the lead, it is a significant expense. The consultant that was referred to, I think, would be in the neighborhood of $50,000 to $60,000. Beyond that, there are advertising costs. Your supervisor of elections, Ms. Brown, is here tonight with some of her staff, and certainly she can answer any questions. I had the opportunity to meet with her. I understand that obviously every time there are new voter registration cards, that is a cost of $20,000 to $30,000, including mailing. And so there are costs. I understand the county may be willing to share in the cost of at least the voter registration cards, publishing those type things, but largely the consultant would be the school board's task to undertake. So, that's the issue for your consideration. I know one of the issues that has come up is, generally when this happens, there is thought to doing it the year after the census, and then it kind of goes away for a decade and you don't hear about it. Again, I think the idea is it would be nice if the county and school board matched. It would be consistent for voters. It would be easier. And currently that's not the case. Ms. Brown can certainly speak to this. I think one of the big issues for the supervisor's office is the timing. Again, this has to occur in an odd year, but because there is a presidential primary in February of 24, I understand that Ms. Brown is on a timeline of like August 1st of this year to have everything basically done and finished into her office. So that is up for your consideration, whether there is interest in redistricting, and then how you want to go about that. I will tell you, and I think Mr. Bowden referred to this, the city is also redistricting this year, and they are using the same consultant that the county used in 2021, Mr. Spitzer. I think that is certainly an option that's available to this board if you wanted to tag along. I will tell you, back in 2021, my understanding is Mr. Spitzer proposed 4 districts, 4 potential alternatives. And the problem with those, at least from this board standpoint, is some of them did not include any schools. Some of them included different schools than currently exist. And my understanding is that there is an inclination from this board to certainly recognize what schools are in each district, have each school have a district. And so I don't know that any of those 4 alternatives, which again, I think you would likely be presented, given that this just happened a year ago, accounts for that factor. So if that is of importance to the school board, again, I think that certainly could be discussed with Mr. Spitzer, or the alternative would be another consultant that could take that into consideration.
Ms. Smith?
Is there a necessity for us to change?
There is not a necessity. Generally, this is looked at after each decennial census, and the idea being that each district should be as equal in population, as, giving preference to racial minorities and things like that, and keeping them together so that there's no disparity in voting. When we chose not to adopt the county's district, some of our districts admittedly may be more than the desired, kind of out of whack or not in proportion, because that had not been done since the 2010 census. But again, I feel comfortable with where we are, which is, we chose not to adopt those districts, retaining our own. I will say that the statutes governing redistricting for school boards are not as strict or as specific with regard to those considerations, but that certainly should be taken into consideration as to whether or not to redistrict.
Thank you.
Mr. Peely had a question.
So, we've talked about this before. I know me and you have, but if the board's okay with it, when we get done asking you questions, do you mind if we hear from Miss Tommy?
No, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't mind, I would love to ask you a few questions too, if that's okay. But when we get done with you, I just wanted to.
Mr. Hudson? You had a question?
Oh, well, when this came about a couple of years ago, I mean, it was your opinion, your legal opinion, that what we were doing was legally sound, and that's continued, that is your opinion now.
It is.
I mean, if it's not broke, and it's gonna cost money, I got a memo here, it said we'd get caught, the school board could take the lion's share. That's some more of that diesel money you're talking about. I'm really concerned about any expense that we would have for something that's not giving us any problem.
Yeah. I think what you'll see is District 1, the population has in essence shrunk, and so it's not as even as other districts. Again, I think we're right there at the cusp of kind of do we or don't we, but I think we are still within the parameters. And I think especially kind of given where we are with, the timeliness of the 2020 census and the decision not to adopt what the county did in 21, I think arguably, not that we can't, but kind of that window for doing it based on the 2020 census has passed. Here we are in 23, and things are changing every day. Do you stay? Do you wait? Do you go? But yes, I think you are still within those limits. Any further questions?
Not right yet.
Okay.
One thing I'd like to address that didn't get mentioned was there will be also a $20,000 to $30,000 consultant fee for our office as well. We don't have a GIS mapping department, so all of this has to go to that mapping department. That work takes time, and at approximately $2,000 a day is what we've been quoted. And then once I get that information back to me, then we have to implement that information into our database system, and then we do a balance and check. We go through and make sure that we verify our work and make sure everybody's in the right districts they belong in. So I think probably what I want to make you aware of our concerns. Like Ms. Logan had said, that, normally this always happens on an odd year, but normally it happens right before, when we don't have a PPP. So normally, all that redistricting takes place during that odd year. Our implementation begins in January, takes us 6 months, 5 months to get all that finished, new voter registration cards out. I don't have that time this time because I have a PPP coming up. We are in election mode starting November. I already have candidates inquiring about partisan and nonpartisan positions. They can't file because they don't know their districts yet. So I have a deadline of August 1st. I need to have shape files in my office. I've already been in touch with my mapping department, ICW, they're out of Tampa, and have them pencil me in just in case, I need them so we can get this done as quickly as possible. You have any questions, hon?
Yeah, I do. So, I do believe that it would be beneficial if all the districts matched. I mean, I would think that'd be easier on your office and all. But what I wanted to ask you is your opinion. You've kind of given it already. If we were to do this before the next census, so our districts were kind of lined up in population, would you recommend waiting until 25 because of not having the PPP in 26, or?
Let me tell you this. This happens every 10 years. We just did it last year. And regardless of what y'all decide to do, I'm just giving you my perspective from my office. This causes mass voter confusion. I had people call me all last year they've got the wrong ballot because they have school board on, District 5, County Commission District 4, or so forth. And it causes extreme voter confusion. We just notified them. If we're going to notify them again, it's going to be chaos. If we notify them in 2025, it's still going to be chaos. If they were to fall, now I can tell you this, if you were to follow the county commission lines, expense would be minimum. The lines are already in place. I would not have to notify the whole county of changes, just those that are affected by those few lines that would need to be moved. Regardless of that, I still have to do and draw precinct lines. If you follow the commissioner lines, if you don't follow, can you do your own lines? I still have to follow or draw new precinct lines. So that is an expense as well. Yeah.
So just to be clear, so if we followed the county commission lines, there would be an expense, but not the 70,000 that you talked
Correct.
about?
Correct. It wouldn't be not near as expensive to follow. Those lines are already in place. So the maps and the shape files, I still have to get from my mapping department. Implementing that into our database system would be easier. The simpler the lines and the easier the lines are, the less work is required. So therefore, if this man spends, Keith, his name is Keith, he was out of Tampa, ICW is the name of the company. They spend 2 days versus 2 weeks at $2,000 a day, because the lines are there. And like I said, I wouldn't have to notify the whole county. So now if the county jumps on board, if you decide to draw lines and the county jumps on board with those lines, everybody in the county is going to have a new card. And you don't think that's a lot of money. Stamps are 60 cents a piece, and I have approximately 45,000 registered voters. And that doesn't that doesn't even entail the printing of the cards and the expense of the paper. And so we're looking at 35,000 plus just to notify my voters.
And that's just out of your office?
That's
That
out of my
30
office. That's just for cards.
Okay.
So notifying the office. That's if I have to notify the whole county. So
Well, let me ask, Ms. Logan, if you said the county would go half, would that count with paying half of her salary, or half of her cost, or no?
Yeah, so Ms. Brown and I and Mr. Foreman met, and again, to be ironed out the specifics, but I think the suggestion was if the school board obviously took the lion's share of the consultant for actually drawing the lines, the county would be willing to work with us and share in the cost of Ms. Brown's office, the voter registration cards, all of those things the county would potentially be willing to
and the
share.
cost of my office could exceed $50,000 to $60,000.
And from my understanding, all 4 maps that, because this, of course, was before me and Ms. Hill were on this board, but all of the 4 maps that were drawn by this consultant were denied by the board? Or at least just the one that the county approved, or?
Yeah, I would say this. I think all 4 were provided to the board, but by the time this matter came for consideration by the board, the county had adopted alternate 1.1, and so that was what.
So
denied.
was there any issue with the other 3 that we couldn't look
This-
at if we wanted to, or
This board was not consulted. They'd already adopted the lines. We were not consulted about.
at all?
At all.
One of the issues was that, I didn't have a school left in my
Yeah,
district.
yeah.
One of my concerns is if a decision is made, I don't want to work in the blind. I would have to be refreshed on what we're doing. I have to see the breakdown and how it occurs. So I really have concerns trying to work in the blind right now. I want to examine the data.
Well, that's exactly what I told Ms. Logan when we spoke. If we went this far, I want us to be involved in it. I mean, it's the same thing. If the state legislature can draw their own lines, why can't we do ours? Why do we have to be in the blind about it? But, okay, I mean, that's what I kind of went off a little bit more than my
It's
original
okay.
question, but that's okay, so.
I think if I had to address anything, you have 5 months. That's a lot of work to,
So you want August 1st deadline if we
August
did
1st deadline.
something?
Beyond that, I've got ballots going out 1st of February. We're creating ballots in November, December. So voters need to know what district they're in. Candidates need to know what district they can run in. I ain't gonna have no candidates for the ballot. So we've got a lot of work to be done, and it needs to be done. And we want to make sure that there's no errors. That's what takes so long, is really going through address by address, making sure voters in the correct district. So,
Thank you.
and if you have any other questions, please just let me know.
Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you.
Well, board, I'm not sure exactly what we're going to be voting on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obviously within the discretion of the board, but if there is interest in moving forward with redistricting, I think there can be a motion to that effect. And likewise, if there's no interest in redistricting, I think it's as simple as that.
Well, now, that wouldn't mean that we're actually going to do it. If we wanted to just at least have a discussion about it later on and then say, oh, well, never mind, we're not going to do it, that would be okay too?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, but we'd have to have a meeting, I mean, it'd have to be discussed in
Yeah, I mean,
in an open meeting.
I think the question before you is there interest in redistricting sufficient to move forward and, talk to a consultant, look at redrawing lines? Again, I mean, if the answer is no, that's real simple, but I think, all you're doing here tonight is expressing interest in the consideration of redistricting and what that looks like, or whether you adopt one of the maps that's ultimately considered or drawn up. I mean, that's for a different day. That would have to be done by resolution. It's just whether there is interest in moving forward with the process.
Madam Chair, and I don't have a dog in this fight, so I'm trying to stay out of it, but might this not be a workshop where you could
As long as it's
listen
noticed,
to
I
a
think.
person talk about what it might go into? Because I don't think you want to go down a $50,000 consultant and then vote
Right.
no.
Yeah.
So I think maybe a workshop that
I-
we could
I
have
think
in a
that's-
couple of weeks.
I think that may be smart, because here, I think that, and I may be speaking out of turn, because I think our concern is it's difficult, and I think we all have concerns about having 2 separate districts from our county commission. And I don't think you were here, but we also all have concerns is that the new maps, there's not a school in every district. So it's kind of difficult when you have Mr. Hudson, the new maps didn't even have a school in Mr. Hudson's district. So, that was a concern for school board members, have a school board member, no schools. So, so we would like to have consistent districts across the county. I think I'm speaking for everyone. But we would like to it be more reflective of the school board as well as the county commission. So there is some interest, but I think it needs to be, it may be explored a little bit more before we say, yes, we want to spend $100,000 to do this. So I think maybe a workshop would be good. Would y'all like to?
I think that's fine. I think the only consideration is the tight timeline.
Yeah,
And so
I mean, it'd have to be pretty fast.
it would be, or, you might be
Yeah.
setting yourself up for 25,
Yeah.
just because that's how the timing works out.
Yeah,
But
yeah, and I'm fine with that. I mean, because I do think we need to move towards doing something so that we're all so that we have consistent, because it is confusing. But I also, you know, think we need to be mindful of monetary obligations. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's a big issue.
yeah, it is a big
And,
issue.
you know, I mean, I can remember the discussion the three board members that were up here at
Yes.
the time had. And, you know, I didn't know till I read the legal description on the afternoon of the board meeting that I was cut out. Thank goodness I did. And I called Mr. Carswell, Mr. Carswell called you, and then other questions became apparent in it. So, I mean, we're legal, everybody knows where they're at. I don't see what the rush is, and that's one of the other problems then was the rush.
What's the rush? Well, then maybe it's something that we don't do by August, but we say at some point we want to do it, but maybe not rush into something head first and. And we could do a joint effort, which I wish would have happened when we did last time. Yes. Yes. Maybe that. So do we want to?
Madam Chair, I think that the workshop would be a great idea, but in the meantime, I think consideration need to be given to the timetable, such as 2025.
Okay.
That's just something that I put out there.
Yeah, because I mean, it's gonna be a headache for them already, because it's, I mean, it's the big election
It's
year.
it's a
I mean,
big
so it's gonna be a
decision.
headache for them anyways.
It's a big decision.
I mean, and I mean, I'll make my statement public. I have no shame in saying that I would love to redistrict, no matter what. But it's the point of the money and the headache and all. It's just, it may not be worth right now.
So do I have a motion to have a workshop to discuss strategy for redistricting?
Yeah, I'll make that motion that we have a workshop to just at least discuss it.
Second.
I don't understand the complete motion. You are saying you want a workshop, but do you, what, just a workshop?
I'm saying if we could do a workshop to possibly just hear out what the supervisor of elections has to say, if we wanted to do it, maybe even in 2025. I know money may be a little different, but we'll still have kind of like an estimate of what's going on. And that way we can go ahead and be prepared after the 2024 election if we wanted to do so.
And I think the only reason you're doing it as a motion is because it's an action item, just to make
Yeah.
it clean and.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
and
yeah,
wrap it
yeah.
up.
So is there a second or is it nothing? Can we move forward? All right.
It dies for lack of a second.
So no second, so we'll move forward. Action item C has been removed from the agenda, so we'll move on to action item D, which is our consideration on a decision to move forward with one of the following options regarding the board leased copy machines. And I guess we'll just, do we go through each one, or is we just wait and see if one of you has a motion as to one of the options?
Madam Chair, if I might, we had a person that brought it in late, so it's not fair to let them speak. But they did fill out the form to
Oh, okay.
speak to the action item, but they came late. So
Okay.
I think in keeping policy, a Mr. Joshua Garner would like to oppose, or let you know that he opposes the Markotech. And so I don't think we can allow
Okay.
him time to speak because he missed the deadline.
Okay.
But I do think we ought to put in the record that we had a citizen, Joshua Garner, and he's checked oppose Markotech.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so how would you suggest we go? Should I do each one?
Yeah, I
or
think
just-
you can go through A
Okay.
through D.
Okay, so do I have a motion to rescind the prior board action on October 25th, 2022 to terminate the copy machine leasing contract with Markotech and Leaf Financial? Rescinding this decision will have no financial impact on the district.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that we rescind the prior board action on October 25th to terminate the copy machine leasing contract with Markotech and Leaf Financial, with the idea that we would revisit this in 3 months and further consider what to do.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? So if I understand this, if we approve this, then we do not move forward on the others.
Correct.
Mr. Hatcher's recommendation was to D, not, and that, you said that's the recommendation of staff as well. Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor of rescinding the prior board action, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
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 Okay, moving forward. Do I have a motion to approve leasing price proposal with Xerox Saxon for 63 new copy machines per attachment? Annual cost for lease is $202,935 for the next 5 years and includes a buyout of the Marcotech and Lee financial agreement. Full leasing package available for review in Mr. Hatcher's office. Approving this action will increase the copy machine budget by approximately $76,936.92 annually for 5 years. Do I have a motion?
And again, just a motion and a second to further it, even if it's voted down, just to resolve the issue.
Second.
Is it a motion?
Did
She's
we
making
have?
the motion and second.
Oh,
Oh.
no. Oh, I thought
Maybe
you
you
had,
do
I
it
thought
all.
you had, no.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Okay.
That's right.
You,
Need a second?
Yeah, I need a second, just see, even if we're just gonna vote it down.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Hey,
Is that a nay from everyone? Okay. Moving on to C, approve the leasing price proposal with Xerox Saxon for 63 new copy machines per attachment. The annual lease, or excuse me, the annual cost for the lease is $137,519.52 for the next 4 years and excludes a buyout of the Marcotech and Lee financial agreement. Full leasing package available for review in Mr. Hatcher's office. Approving this action will increase the copy machine accredited system-wide by Southern Association of Colleges and Schools budget by approximately $11,521.41 annually for 4 years with a buyout of lease agreement by a one-time payment of $304,096.43 minus any payments that have been made by the district since the buyout quote was made by Leaf.
so moved. How about that?
I have a motion. Thank you, Ms. Smith. Do I have a second?
for discussion,
Yes.
second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor of approving this item, say aye. Any opposed, like sign?
No.
Nay.
Nay. Moving on to action item 6D. Approve the leasing price proposal with Xerox Saxon for 63 new copy machines per attachment. The annual cost for the lease is $137,519.52 for the next 4 years and excludes a buyout of the Marcotech and Lee financial agreement. Full leasing package available for review in Mr. Hatcher's office. Approving this action will increase the copy machine budget by approximately $11,521.44 annually for 4 years, with the buyout of lease agreement by a one-time payment of $322,025.78 minus any payments that have been made by the district since the buyout quote was made by Leaf. This option would allow the district to retain the copying machines.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve option D.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor of approving item 6D, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, like sign?
Nay.
Okay. I think I had 3 and 2.
3-2.
Okay. The action, that item is approved by a majority vote. Okay. Thank you, board members. And I thank you, my husband, for actually bringing me my glasses because I had never made it through that without all that. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to the consent agenda. Is the consent agenda in order, Mr. Carswell?
Yes, ma'am, with the attachment.
There is some items on the, is there?
There is one on the agenda.
One on the addendum.
That's what I meant. with the
All right.
addendum.
Consent agenda is in order. Board members, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Oh.
Also second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Consent agenda is approved. We're moving on to comments. Is there any member of the audience who would like to address the board at this time?
Joshua Garner, Jamestown Glen, Lake City, 32025. Thank you guys so very much. Just a couple things to touch on without making
Oh,
a
I need to
comment.
remind you, have 3 minutes.
3 minutes, yeah. I'm a fast talker. Mr. Norris is definitely a stand-up guy. 100% commend him for everything that he does. I see him at Westside all the time. I will say on the printer thing, I feel like you guys did make the right decision. I, as a PTO person, had spent 4.5 hours trying to print flyers once, and it was literally 1 out of every 3 sheets was bad. I ended up going and personally paying for the copies be done at Office Max. It was faster than trying to sit there and wait for those. And every single person discussed that. I did look up auction prices on those printers of the 7900 series. Looks around 500 to $2,000, depending on how much you get on eBay for actually sold items. And so I also think the savings on paper is going to help alleviate some of that extra cost that you guys were concerned about. I'd hate to eat into that diesel money. In terms of, I know one of the biggest things that happened recently was the front page of the newspaper about the guns being in the schools. I don't know if that was, I don't think that's on the agenda tonight or anything. So I don't really want to go into that too much, I guess, at the time. Definitely hearing from a lot of teachers on it. My personal fear on that is a situation of paralysis, if it comes down to that. I know some teachers are going to be 100% on board, and trust me, I'm pro Second Amendment all day long. I would hate for something to rely on a teacher in that kind of scenario. I would love to see more deputies at schools, and even the schools that are in the city limits. Why could we not involve city police as well? I know that's kind of a weird thing just because we're county based, but could help at some point, as well as perhaps a trained parental volunteer-led organization. A lot of parents always do a lot of talking, but it's hard to get parents to do something sometimes. So that could be something good. District changes, I don't know, I'm just trying to.
You have 1 minute left.
1 minute left, all right. District changes, I had spoken actually with the staff at the election office prior to the election this past time, and it definitely was eye-opening about all of the things that they go through with it being completely separate. With the extra costs and things like that. Obviously, that's not your costs. But it was just kind of wild to hear, another person in the office just talking about, well, I was trying to get data for a campaign. They were like, well, just so you know, this and this and this and this. And it was just a whole kind of rigmarole. And then lastly, in terms of the half-cent tax that passed, right? Hooray. I'd like to say I did a large part of volunteering with that campaign. Sorry, Hunter. But hopefully we can, come to terms. I have had several school personnel and a lot of other parents questioning it. Okay. So just wanted to perhaps love to see the information on the oversight committee, as well as maybe a tracker of some sort showing the community. Because I know you did Fort White and things like that, but showing that information would be amazing.
And if I could address that one little comment we don't normally address, we have an engineer survey that's being done at our schools that's going to take probably till about June. Once we get that survey back, we will have a better idea of what schools their needs are. So right now, we're only moving forward on the Fort White Auditorium, the Fort White Elementary School wing, and the Columbia High School track. The rest of it will be determined after we get that engineered.
I think they're great things. I think we put that out to the public.
We're on the same page. We just need to publicize.
Yeah, I think that would be amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
All right, school board members, Mr. Beeler?
Oh, yes, okay. So I asked if I could go first, because I had a little something I wanted to add, and Diana's going to come up too. But first of all, thank you for putting that together, the spotlight. I'm enjoying that. I'm glad we're getting to that point. I think Mr. Cruz is gone. I think he left early on, but congratulations to him. Mr. Giddens, if you'll pass that on for us, please. I know you'll, and Mr. Cooey, you both here, so that's a big achievement, and I think, the little town of Fort White should be proud about something like that, especially the farther he goes. He can say, oh, people say, well, I'm from Little Lake City, but he can say, well, I'm from Fort White. So it's a bigger deal. Ms. Laxon, we appreciate you all the time coming up and giving that report. I look forward to, I know we have our executive session. You can ask Ms. Tatum behind you. I got a lot of questions geared up, so I'm ready. So, but one thing, Diana, if you want to come up and we can kind of talk about this. So what I did, and I'm going to say it publicly, I'm going to say it to the school board as well. So I came to Mr. Carswell about an idea, and then he sent me right to Diana Swisher. So we talked about it. We've met about it. We even met about it today. So one thing that I wanted to do is to get the teachers and all more involved with like our community all is to do like a little game thing for them and like a family feud. And so we're hitting that now. We're going to do that May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. It's the week of Teacher Appreciation Week. So we're going to be doing that right here. And I'll kind of let Diana talk to you a little bit about it too, but I'd love for you guys to be involved. We've collected donations from the community about the cost that we would do, because what we would do is each school would get a payment. And then, of course, we do like a championship round where that final school would get a little bit of a bigger payment. And I think it would just be a bigger thing for the teachers and the community and all to be involved. And we're 400 away from our goal, and there's 4 other board members that I know hadn't sent a check, but I have. So, but we'll let Diana talk a little bit about it if she'd like.
Yeah. As Mr. Peeler said, this is an idea he came to us with, and we're very excited. We're excited to get all the schools involved. Everybody loves a good rivalry, so this is a chance to be able to bring that out. As he said, we're going to do it during Teacher Appreciation Week. And the plan is to have schools go against each other, and each school will receive around $200 that they're able to give back to their school that week to possibly use for a luncheon or something like that. Each team will have 5 players. That's going to be our Teacher of the Year, our School-Related Employee of the Year, a custodian. It'll have a great mix from all the schools. And then the final night, that Thursday night, Tuesday and Wednesday, we would do a few teams each night, and then that final Thursday night would be like the championship night, and there would be a little bit, it would be up to $500 that the school would receive for winning. So we're excited, and we're hopeful that everybody can come out and join us and join in the fun.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm good.
Thank you. Ms. Hill?
Family Feud. Okay, that sounds like fun. I've always loved watching that show, so I can't wait to see the CCS version. I would just like to say to Diana also, thank you for the spotlight on the culinary program. I'm glad that we're showcasing all the wonderful things that we're doing at CCS or in CCS, and what a great start. Thank you for your efforts there. Congratulations to Brody Cruz. He already left, but I'm glad to see that we have recognized him for the Sunshine State Scholar that he is. And Lindsay, thank you again for your update. Mr. Garner, thank you for being here and giving us your comments. Thank you, Mr. Norris, for being here and giving your comments. And Ms. Brown has already left, but I appreciate her being here as well. That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Hudson?
I'm good.
Ms. Smith?
You know what happens when you go last, but I do, well, I do thank everyone for the comments and those who have participated tonight in giving us information for the agenda. I do want to say personally to Mr. Norris, we appreciate all that you have done. I realize from your comments that it has been overwhelming and a thankless job that you have done. So I want you to know we appreciate you. We surely hope that things will brighten up, because it's nothing personal. I want you to know that. We appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Ms. Logan?
No comment.
Mr. Carswell?
Thank you. Thought you were going to forget.
I'm not gonna forget
I
you.
appreciate it. If you recall, we removed the guardian discussion tonight. I do think when we had that on the 14th, that there will be public comment from employees, teachers, like I think Mr. Gardner mentioned. The sheriff and I have been in discussions about that. He will be here that night to answer questions, much like Ms. Brown was here. But here again, we're not asking to implement the guardian program. We're just asking to begin the process to discuss with the sheriff formally, kind of like we did with the fort, to discuss formally to transition. We just want a formal discussions with the sheriff on how we implement this program. There are laws changing as next week, there will be laws starting to change from legislation that are going to increase what we have, increase the way we look at guardians differently. But I mean, I've kind of gotten some emails over the last couple of days. At no point do we ever, I mean, none of us, at least I'm not going to speak for y'all, we've never said we wanted to arm teachers. And that still is my thought. But there are models out there where you can have a guardian program that you don't arm teachers. And so there's all kind of models out there. But just wanted you to know that the sheriff will be here there, and it will be back on the agenda on the 14th. And that's all. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I wish Brody was still here. I said a little bit about him. Mr. Cooey and Mr. Giddens can tell you, he's just a great kid. He's not only smart, but he's just a good kid to be around. And I've gotten the opportunity to work with him several times, like I said, with homecoming. And if we ever want anything to move on our floats, I go get Brody. And he's just a really cool kid. And so I really, there's nobody more deserving. And so a lot of times, you get the smart kids, but he's just a really great kid to be around. So I'm really proud that he got to be here and got to be recognized, because he's just a really nice kid. Thank you, Ms. Laxton. You do a great job delivering the bad news, sometimes, but thank you for being here. Keith, Ginger, y'all are great friends of mine, and sometimes I have to do things that are hard, and, I'm very sorry, I hope that we're still friends. And y'all are great. Every time we go to Fort White, forever, they always do the sound. They're always at everything. Ginger has taught all of my children. We've served on PTO together, and I love you guys, and I hope that we're still friends, and you've done wonderful things for this district and for this community. So thank you for all that you've done for Columbia County Schools. So with that said, my husband's telling me something. Mr. Maya's celebration of life service is this Saturday at Christ Central. Mr. Maya, our band director, there. So if anybody is interested in attending that. So with that said, we are adjourned. Thank you.